Felicitations! It is I, Felicia Day, and this is my podcast where I talk about things I've done this week, things I'm thinking about, things I've read, consumed, eaten, experienced. And today is going to be about travel because I have been gone for 3.5 weeks and I almost didn't survive. As in, I didn't get any sleep because I took a baby on an international flight and it wasn't a good idea. Guys, listen. I want to just establish right up top that I love my baby more than anything in the world. And I am struggling to sort of, to balance the idea of me before I had a baby with me after having a baby. And me before I had a baby was an A, workaholic, B, workaholic, C, internet addict, D, video game addict, and what comes next? E, I slept a lot. So, none of those things are happening anymore. I'm certainly not on the internet as much as I used to be, which is a good thing. I am definitely not consuming as many books or video games or TV shows or movies or any kind of yummy things that I would ingest, nom nom nom, before. And I am certainly not sleeping as much, but let me just tell you, there is no sleep to be had taking a 16-month-old to Europe for 3.5 weeks. So let me give you the lowdown, and I hope you guys had a really good time this last month. I missed you. But I'm going to probably go into excruciating detail about this, and if you didn't like me, you wouldn't be listening, so it's fine, right? Great. Let's get going. So I went to Europe. I planned this trip last year because I hadn't been to Europe in a couple years, and I love traveling. I love seeing new things, and I particularly love traveling alone because I walk really fast. I'm a little obsessive compulsive about my scheduling, so I will literally be like, oh, I have 22 and a half minutes for this museum, and done, you have a croissant to eat at exactly 1:30. So I would just literally consume whole swaths of large cities within a 4 to 5 hour time span. And so I had this idea that I was going to make my baby a world traveler, and we were going to just go on this fabulous 3-week, the longest I've ever been away from home excursion, because I figured, hey, if we're going to work so hard to get our schedules adjusted, we might as well stay there for a while, right? And theoretically it was great. You know, I found 3 conventions in a row just happened to want to invite me, and it seemed like it was a really good idea, and it was kind of good. I don't know. Let's get into it, and you guys can vote at the end whether that was a good idea or not. So, on the 15th of May, oh my God, it's so far away. On the 15th of May, we flew to Poznan, Poland. Now, I never thought that I was going to ever go to Poland, although I am a quarter Polish. My great-grandmother was Felicia Petrovsky. I think she had a first name too. I don't actually know it, but I know I was named after her. And she used to make pierogies and all sorts of cabbage rolls and desserts. And I just remember taking home whole swaths of pierogies to my house when I was a very, very young child. So, you know, it was actually kind of cool because I don't speak Polish. My mother doesn't speak Polish because my grandfather wouldn't let my grandmother teach his children Polish, which I guess that was a generational thing. They didn't want the kids to be bilingual, which is sad because, wow, bilingual, it's so impressive to just like pop out a language. Hey, what's up? In several different languages. So I was excited to go to Poland because it would be a place that I'd never gone to before and probably wouldn't necessarily have on my list to go to before I die. So I was like, yes, going to Poland. So we flew, and I'm going to go into excruciating detail. I'm sorry. I have not vented to anybody about this trip, and I really hope you guys are interested. It gets better as we go along. I'll just tell you that. So better as in more torturous. So we go to Poland, and the only way to get to Poland is either through Germany on Lufthansa or through Polish Air. And like, listen, I shouldn't have actually been snobby because now I realize that Polish Air had brand new planes, and it probably would have been a more comfortable flight. Because Lufthansa, I've flown them before. I just got to tell you, German people don't know how to be comfortable. It's just Hardest seats ever. And I was lucky enough to have a business class seat, you guys, okay? Like this, I should be just like kissing the feet of fate. Because I don't know if I could have gone and coach with a little baby on my lap the whole time. So we had a business class seat to Poland. And my baby's large. She's large. She weighs like 26 pounds, 27 pounds. And I think we're at the tipping point where we shouldn't be sharing a seat together, especially 11 and a half hours of seat. So so not only was it was like literally trying to sit on a board, and then the seat went flat. You know, if you ever flown in business class, it is fancy. Okay, it is always like when I get flown for work, I'm like, this is it. But unfortunately, when you're there at 11 and a half hours, not as great because the baby does not want to stay in a 2 foot by 3 foot radius the whole time, and she certainly doesn't want to sleep. She's a precious, listen, I've raised her to be a princess. She's a princess in the pea. She can't be sleeping on a board. So I piled anything I possibly could. Like I got like 3 blankets from them and made like a cushion, like this beautiful cushion on the flat business class seat. And after 3.5 hours of trying to get her to sleep, I finally got her to sleep. And she's in the middle of the seat, just splayed out. I might even post a picture of her. I don't know how I'm going to be able to post it, but I have a picture on her Instagram of her just sleeping, taking up the whole seat, and I am huddled on the footrest of the business class seat for 5.5 hours. And I know enough German because I took German in college that I could hear the flight attendants, because the plane is totally dark. Everyone else is sleeping really comfortably, by the way. I could hear them in German talking about how the baby was splayed out on the seat and the mom is huddled on the and making fun of me because it was so pathetic, and laughing in German. It was a German accent when they're laughing. So let's just say that the initial trip there was not the most comfortable, all right? And then we had to connect because there was no direct flight to Poznan, Poland, because it's a small town. So we had to connect. We got off the plane. We had another connector. In Munich, they actually had these little modules that you could pay to take a nap in. And unfortunately, we didn't have long enough layover, or believe me, I would have taken them up. I would have just slept in public at that point. Although I would have been afraid the baby would wander off. So we get there, and we're in Poznan, Poland, which is actually a really lovely little city. It has this downtown square that was really vibrant, and it felt kind of like a party all the time. All the houses are different colors, and it's really beautiful. I had a hard time. There was let me just say it. You can only have so many dumplings. All right. You go to a city and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wait to have X kind of food. And then eventually you're like, ugh, I just need some noodles. So I ended up kind of eating Thai food the whole time. But it was really good Thai food. So if you're in Poznan, Poland, there is a downtown Thai food that is just delicious. Anyway, whatever. So let's just say that for 4 days, my baby tortured me to death because she would wake up at midnight and just dance on the bed. She would be like, hey, let's get up from midnight to 4 a.m. And then I would go to the convention and be there for like 12, 14 hours meeting fans, which is awesome, but it takes so much energy because I don't want anybody to go away being like, wow, she seemed tired. So I didn't sleep for 4 days at all. And I am an 8-hour-a-day sleeper, you guys. I was the kind of person who would be like, oh, I got 7.5 last night. I'm so bitchy. I think I survived on 7.5 hours total for 4.5 days. I was sleeping standing up at a certain point. But overall, other than that personal stuff, I loved meeting everybody in Poland. It was such an interesting, first of all, if you haven't been to a country without the same alphabet as you, it's very jarring. Well, actually, Poland does have, they have the same alphabet but as we do English, but they have a very different, it's just so foreign the way they spell everything. There are so, when I'm teaching my Calliope, I'm trying to go over the alphabet with her a lot, and like, you get to WXYZ and you're like, you don't really need to know about these. They're really not that much in use. I mean, xylophone is always in every single book, right? Not in Polish. Everything has an XYZ. Everybody's name, even if it's Kate, it's KYXTZA, which is cool. It actually is really good for the brain. And that's why I love traveling so much, that everything kind of mixes. If you get out of your element and show your brain different things, it really forces it to kind of grow and question what you know. So that was awesome. Everybody was so lovely. I got some amazing fan art. And I learned something that I'm always going to take for the rest of my life. The word Koopa is the word for poop, and the word dupa is the word for butthole. So forever, for the rest of my life, you people, I will be standing up in a public setting and I'll be like, I got to go drop some Koopa off the dupa. Or I got a Koopa in the dupa. I got to go. I'm passing that beautiful thing on to you guys so you can use it too. Which also means that King Koopa is King Poop. And I learned this, by the way, from Jesse Cox. So I'm going to give him a shout out about that, because I don't know why my fans didn't tell me about that, but he uncovered it because he was out late drinking with people. I had to go home and try to sleep, but not really sleep. Koopa in the dupa, you guys. Koopa in the dupa. Another thing that was kind of fun in Poland was that I guess everybody would always stand up and say, "Hi, Felicia, I'm a huge fan. I'm very stressed right now." Or, "Oh, it is very stressing me out to meet you." And I kept apologizing to everyone until I learned that the word for excited in Polish means stressed. And stress is actually a positive thing for them versus like negative. And I said, "Oh, so excited." And they were like, "Oh no, excited means something negative. It means you have too many emotions. You're too overfull with emotions. You're kind of a volcano of emotions." So I thought that was kind of interesting. So if somebody says, "Oh, I'm very stressed," a Polish person says that, you should take it as a compliment, I think. Or they were being really, really polite. Moving on. After that, we went to London, and this is where it really gets, oh boy. So my dream, and I have a lot of dreams, you guys, and I just don't want to give up on them because I have a baby, and I might just have to let them go. Or they were not that good dreams, they were always just dreams and not really practical, which I'm finding out right now. For example, I've always dreamed of living in London. So since I was going to MCM London Comic-Con the next weekend, I was like, I'm going to not only go to London for a week, the longest I've ever been there, I'm going to rent a house, because it was actually cheaper to rent a house than to get a hotel in a really close area. So I did not Airbnb. Last time I Airbnb'd, it was kind of a nightmare, and so I'm kind of off of it. But I found a quote-unquote luxury Airbnb-like service, and I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to like ruin them or anything. But this, oh boy, it was not luxury. But so in the pictures, guys, I spent hours, probably like 20 hours researching different places to rent in London, in the London area. And we ended up in North London, which was a beautiful area, but it just was kind of really far away, which I ended up spending like, I don't know, like $80 a day just in cab rides, because the baby needed to go back for a nap because she refuses to sleep in a stroller like any other normal baby on the planet Earth. But casting that aside, it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. And it was in one of those row like townhouses, the white townhouses with the roses climbing up. There was a little playground down the street. It was near enough to a subway where we could get in and out of town. And it seemed like on paper so beautiful. It was gorgeous, gorgeously designed. It had a playroom with toys that I could use for the baby. And it just was a dream. It was on 4 levels. It was just a quintessential London townhouse in a lovely part of town, near the zoo, near some parks. And I was like, oh, this is my dream. One day I'll move here and be able to live here, but this will be the sample that I will bite and I will just enjoy it and savor it with my tongue and whatever. It's getting weird. We walk in and it is gorgeous, you guys. It is like pristine. It's like old but updated. It has, strangely enough, it has the kitchen on the bottom floor, which I guess is kind of common. It had a lot of renovations, so it was very modern, and it had a little garden in the back. It was 2 doors down from a playground with baby swings. It seemed so British. There were like flowers, and there was birds just kind of like tapping on the window like, "Hey girl, welcome to London," or "Hello, welcome to London." Don't make fun of my accent, shut up. And I literally was like taking pictures and video and sending it to my friends like, "Ha, look at me, we're in London." So the first night after traveling so far, it was really like, Calliope's lovely and she travels really well, but we're already like not sleeping for 4 days. And so she's really tired. So I have her alone and I'm trying to get her in the bathtub, and she doesn't want to stay in the bathtub because it's like a different kind of bathtub. And so she stands up and like splashes water everywhere and almost hits her head. And I was like freaking out. And it was hot. It didn't have AC. So I had opened these windows, and they were like Roman shades, the kind that kind of lift like an elevator. And they were thick, sort of gray velvet Roman shades. And they didn't have any screens in them because I guess it's cool. London babies know not to go out the window. So I get her, and I'm wearing, by the way, because she got me so wet, I took my pants off and my underwear off. And like, this is not lascivious. This is just like to set up the story, okay? So all I had was a shirt on, a long shirt, but a shirt, because I was about to get in the shower before she freaked out. So like, I'm like trying to get not drip water all over somebody else's floor. And she runs into the room where the windows are open. I'm like about to have an aneurysm because I'm like, no. And it's still light out, by the way, because for some reason in London, it's 10 p.m. It's still light. And it's light at 5 a.m. They don't sleep over there. They're just all the opposite of vampires. They're daypires. Is that a word? So she's running toward the opening window, and it's not like completely open. There are some there's like a little balustrade, so it's not like she's going to go right out the window, but I'm like clearly freaking out. So I'm running in front of her, and I get the window closed, but the window shade is open. So I reach up and try to lower the window shade, and I realize when I reach my shirt up that everything is exposed from the waist down, everything. But she's like now screaming and try and go out the other window. So I run to get the other window closed, and now I'm like, we got to close these shades. And I'm just trying to wrangle her while she's being crazy and not tearing up a person's house. So I'm lifting up my arms, trying to get these shades down, and I'm panicking, right? Because my lady parts are literally out, and it's daytime, and people are walking their dogs outside, and they're British. And I don't think they see this every day. This is not Paris, okay? This is not the red district red light district in Amsterdam or some stuff. So anyway, I'm so freaked out that I'm lowering the shade, and of course it gets stuck right at waist level. So now there's nothing but my lady part showing and some legs, and I'm thinking, they're going to call the cops on me. This is London. These are proper people. There are BMWs on the street. They're going to think, whoa, who let the trashy Americans in? So I, of course, am trying to go faster, and the thing sticks, and then I'm like, oh my God. So I try to go up and then back down, and what happens? All the rings on the blind pop off and just fly everywhere. Choking hazard, small rings, breaking probably a very expensive blind. And so I couldn't sleep all night because I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to get my deposit back because this fancy lady who clearly knows how to organize her house better than I will ever organize it. I mean, the house is beautiful, and there's pictures of their children everywhere, and I'm like, I'm ruining their lives. They're going to come back and be like, who let these people in here? So anyway, we get in the bed and we try to go to sleep, and I don't know what is going on in Europe, okay? They don't believe in bathtubs in general, and they certainly don't believe in top sheets, because 3 out of 4 of the hotels that I went to had no top sheets. And I'm talking about the sheet that goes on top of the sheet that's on the mattress between you and the comforter, because why would you want to wash your comforter every week, right? You want to have the top sheet. So clearly there's a business opportunity for somebody to open a top sheet sort of shop over there, because there were no top sheets anywhere. And the bed was so uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable, you guys. I have a Tempur-Pedic, so I will say that I'm in sort of a rarefied air when it comes to mattresses, and I like a really soft mattress, and so does the baby, clearly, or she wouldn't have taken up I would have had to put 4 blankets deep on the business class seat for her to sleep at least 2 hours. So neither of us get any sleep. Also, those beautiful quote-unquote shades, which I was too afraid to open for the rest of the trip, 9 days, because I didn't want to break another one, which meant that I couldn't get any air into the room, which meant I was sweating all night. They were blackout blinds, but they let a sliver of light into the room directly in the eye line of anybody who's laying in the master bed. So The blackout part was a moot point. It was really just kind of like an eyelid, kind of like a laser focus for somebody to just literally be woken up at 5 o'clock every morning, including a baby. So for 9 days, we did not sleep well, although I did pile 2 different comforters on there and we kind of slept okay. Plus, the infrastructure of this rented house, and believe me, I will never rent a house again, ever. I will be in a hotel. I will go to a Motel 6 with a kitchenette before I ever rent another human's house because I can't deal with the guilt. I broke an IKEA bowl, and I'm like, they're going to sue me. I couldn't figure out how to use the garbage disposal. I looked at their personal photos because they were on display, and then I felt like a creep. So I don't know. It's just too much guilt. Also, we didn't have hot water for 3 days. So for some reason, I guess they had another boiler installed. And so after the first night, we had hot water. Kind of. The baby had hot water. I didn't. For 3 other days, we had no hot water. 0 hot water, guys. Believe me, this was less than a hotel room. 2 hotel rooms, which I was going to have to pay. It was not cheap. There was no hot water, and I called several times. They sent somebody out, couldn't fix it. After 3 days, we finally got some hot water, in which time the refrigerator broke. So I was opening yogurt to give it to the baby, and there was mold on top because nothing was preserved. So I spent all this money on groceries that we never ended up eating because everything went bad and there was black mold in the ice tray. So, listen, never rent a house. Never look at the pictures and think, oh, that's my dream. And also, there's a romance to a 4-story house. In practicality, I am a young person. I felt like a 90-year-old woman when I get home and be like, oh, I got to go up 3 flights to go sleeping. I don't know how people do it. No wonder everybody in England has really good thighs. That's all I have to say. Like glutes and like quads. Your quads are great. No wonder. They're very skinny and thin people, but they have great quads. They have to in order to make it up and down those stairs every day. So, wow. Anyway. And also, I guess in Europe, you can't have a plug in the bathroom. It's illegal, which makes sense because you don't want water in a plug. But at the same time, how do you do your hair? Do you have to have a vanity? None of the places I had vanities. So I was like, I had to use my like compact to like do my hair in a small mirror near the bed every single time, which is really weird to me because people in Europe have good hair. Is it just naturally good hair? I guess if I could wash my hair in hot water, I would have found out, but I couldn't. Also, what is the deal with your dryers? It took 4.5 hours to dry a load of clothing. And is that just normal? I should have someone from Europe. I need a representative from Europe on the line immediately. This should be a dial-in show, and I need some explanation about your appliances. So I complained. And also, I told them about the rotten... so the whole thing about the luxury part was they were supposed to treat it like a hotel. So they dropped off like shampoo bottles, and they had their own linens, which were, by the way, awful. And, they were supposed to be a full service, quote unquote, place. They gave me a phone to use where it was nice. So like, it was some nice features on, but not in practicality. And when I tried, I couldn't get the app to work because the woman who told me how to use the app showed me wrongly. And then they just didn't email me back. And then they just dropped a mini fridge off. After I complained about mold poisoning my child, they dropped a mini fridge off, didn't even tell me. So I was like, oh, there's a mini fridge on the table. I guess that's for us, ? So after I got back, they sent an email saying like, hey, we'd like to know how your stay was. And I was like, oh boy, would I ever like to tell you how my trip went. And I told it like it was. It was awful. It was 9 days of torture. It was the worst experience. I have had more enjoyable stays in Honduran hotel rooms with no running water. And I 100% am serious about that. So the guy, after 4 days, emails me back and he offers me a 250-pound refund. It's not even near. It's not even in 100-pound credit. And it's not even near like half a night stay out of 9 days. If this was a Motel 6, and I've never even stayed in a motel, I'm sure that the manager would have been like, let's comp you at least one night. And all I could think of was like, people live here. It's all about appearance. And those are all my generalizations about people who live in London. Would I live in London now? Well, I would not need any stairs and I would need a Tempur-Pedic mattress. That's all I know. And I need a fridge. And, you know, I would never use a Roman shade. I don't know. Do you think she found out about the curtain? I told them about the curtain. I came clean. Let me just tell you. They better not charge me for that curtain. If they charge me for that curtain, you guys, oh boy, there's going to be some tweeting. Okay, moving on. London was great. Other than that, it wasn't really. I mean, it was. We went to amazing restaurants. There was one called Gymkhana, which was like really fancy Indian food, but it was so good. It was way too spicy, but I was like, I don't care at this point. And it actually didn't give me a stomachache, which is kind of cool because it was so delicious. We went to all sorts of coffee shops. We went to Shoreditch, and I was like, oh, let's go to Shoreditch. And it's probably like, hey, let's go to Brooklyn. We're in New York City. Like a hipster. I was like a hipster tourist, which, by the way, I have done that. I've been like, I'm going to Brooklyn as a tourist. I'm so dorky. But Shoreditch is really cool, and they have amazing shops and graffiti everywhere. And so I'm walking down the street with the baby, and I want to go into this vintage mart, and then I'm like, no, I'll cut down this side street. Who do I see in front of me but Nathan Fillion? Nathan Fillion was just randomly walking down the street with his family on the same day, at the same street, at the same time as me. How is that possible, you guys? He wasn't even at the convention. He was just on a vacation with his family, randomly on the same street, at the same time, on the same day, in the same city as me. Not in our home cities. If that happened in LA, my mind would be blown. And yet, what is the probability of that, ever? And he didn't act like he wasn't even surprised. I guess, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, the world does revolve around Nathan Fillion. I'm just going to tell you. I don't think he thinks that, but it probably is true. He is the sun around which everyone rotates. Oh, so weird. Anywho, that was London. MCM London was great. I sat next to the girl who played the sister in Black Panther, and I couldn't even look her in the eye because I was so like fangirling out. And also I sat next to Tom from Lucifer, who I'd never met before, who is the most debonair British man I've ever met. And he's really, 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 really nice, gentleman, and he plays the guitar in the green room. There's nothing wrong with him. I really hope his show keeps going, and he should have me on it because I would play undead or a vampire. I mean, I could play anything. I'm very pale. I could play a dead person easily. I should have given him his card. Yeah. Whatever. So we finally get out of the dream/nightmare that is London, and we go to Barcelona because Barcelona, I have said it before, if you know me at all, Barcelona is my favorite city in the world, and it continues to be my favorite city in the world because we spent 5 days there. The baby had a great time. And what I learned about traveling with an infant who is 16 months old, who just started to walk, is that you get one thing a day. One tiny thing a day. You could see one museum. You can go to one area and shop. You can go to one store. And that is it. One department store. And that is it. Okay? The baby needs to stay in the house for the rest or go to a playground or something. It has to be baby-centric. They're not going to be like, oh, mom, just live your dream. Go to every single donut shop and game store and see every painting that you want because I'm cool. I'm just here. No. If you have a baby, guys, travel when they're small larvae. Travel when they're a sack. Travel with them when they sleep 4 to 6 times a day, and you can just strap them on like a backpack in the front and just go along your merry way. Do it. Travel. Because once they get to be a real human with opinions and a little bit of will, it is not happening anymore. And like I said, Calliope, I bought a special stroller for this trip. It was a Yo-Yo Baby Zen, which if you need a travel stroller, no product placement, it is the best stroller ever because you can drive it with one hand and you can have a coffee in one and drive in. It is sweet business. And it folds up to go above in the travel carry-on area. So, listen, I did it specifically because it'll lean back so she could sleep in it, but it was travel-sized. Except my baby will not sleep in a stroller. She will not barely sleep on a plane, kind of, but not even. So basically, I would have to go back to the house in the middle of nowhere, quote unquote, London. It was a great area, but anyway, it was far from anything I wanted to see. And allow her to sleep, which kind of ate up half the day. And then she just wanted to go to the playground for 4 hours. And then at night, I'm not going out. Where am I going to go? She goes to sleep at 7 or 8. I'm exhausted. Let me sleep. Except the light is going to hit me at 5 a.m. So we got the hell out of there. Great city, London. Great city. And we went to Barcelona. And I stayed at, and I will endorse this. This is the best. My favorite hotel in the whole wide world is Hotel Neri. Hotel Neri in Barcelona. It's in the middle of the Gothic corner, small windy streets, and they have apartments that you can get. They had like stay 3 days, get a fourth free or something, and they're little apartments, and they are perfect. Oh, it was like we had running water. We had a refrigerator that was cold. We had some basic necessities, and we had a top sheet. It was fantastic. It was so great. And I have to tell you, I ate so much gelato. I ate my way through Barcelona because at that point I was like, I'm not going to see anything I really, really want to see. We're not going to go learn about Picasso and go to all the places that he worked and see every single one of the buildings that we're not doing it, all right? This is not an educational trip anymore. I'm not enriching myself. I'm literally enriching my butt. So we ate and ate and ate. I did a food tour with a professional food critic, and he took us to a section of town that I never would have gone to called Saints. And we went to the food market, and we met a woman from Chicago who was half Spanish, and she ran a cheese shop, and she gave us all sorts of cheeses, and it was amazing. We went to a charcuterie place where a man gave me so much ham, I'm never going to eat ham again. And if you go to Spain, there's just ham everywhere. This place had a 24-hour ham dispenser out front. And if you look on my Instagram, you can see a picture. It was incredible. I bought 10 pooping souvenir sculptures. They have these, I can't remember the name of it, kappa, I don't know the word. They had these little sculptures of people pooping. And they're good luck because evidently the farmers would poop in the fields a long time ago for good luck and to fertilize. And these little figurines of figures pooping, in order to have good luck, you need to put one in your nativity scene every year. This is a true story, guys. So I got the best one that I got for a friend, but it's the most epic pooping sculpture. It is Daenerys Targaryen pooping. Actually, that'll be the picture for this one before I gave it to my friend. Daenerys Targaryen pooping. Oh, it's so good. And I bought a bunch of those for people. And I ate gelato. There was a gelato place that, I'm not kidding, it was the best gelato I've ever had in my life. I took a picture of that too. Gelato Mezzo or something like that. I don't know. They had a mojito sorbet was probably the best thing I've ever put in my mouth. And I had it twice a day. I had mojito mixed with one other flavor every single day, twice a day. I would have had it for breakfast too. I mean, listen, it's milk. It's fruit. The only bad thing about Barcelona was I went to the Sagrada Familia and I decided for the first time to go up the tower. And if you guys are familiar with the Sagrada Familia, it is the most beautiful church I've ever been into in my life. That and the cathedral in Köln are just, that you walk in, and I'm not a religious person, but when you walk in and see a monument that humans have built to the powers above, that is so breathtaking, you kind of, you at least honor the achievements that man can do architecturally and sort of that sort of reverence. I mean, I was just blown away. And I'd been there before, but I wanted to go again. And for the first time, I was like, yeah, let's go up the tower. That's cool. Knowing myself as someone who is agoraphobic to the point where I have a panic attack going over a bridge, I was like, woo, this is great. So you go up and I didn't know until we really got there that basically you could go up an elevator, but you got to go down the stairs. 425 stairs. So we go up and it's fine. And I step out and you see the most breathtaking landscape. You see everything in Barcelona. It was such a clear day. You could see the ocean right on the beach. You could see all the beautiful buildings going up. You could see down the coastline. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I was like, for about 5.5 seconds, I was like, oh, this is gorgeous. And then my mind shrunk to a pinpoint and I wanted to die. I had a panic attack that I think it was the most epic panic attack in many, many years that I've had. And yet I still had 422 stairs to go down to. And not just 422 stairs, you guys. It wasn't like just a staircase. It was a round spiraling staircase with a hole in the middle and no railing. Okay? So people were just taking pictures down the hole. And I was like, please stop. Just looking at you, taking a picture is giving me a panic attack. So I was huddled against the wall, like I'm starting to escape from a dungeon somehow, going down and down and down. And people kept stopping to take pictures. And I was like, I'm going to push you. I might push you because it was single file. Just don't do it. So I ran out of there as fast as I could, which was not fast because of all the tourists. And you know what I had to do after that? I had to have a large gelato, not just a small. Oh, so there was Barcelona. And I had a great time, finally adjusted my expectations to having a baby on a trip. And we were having a great time. We were all adjusted to the time thing. And then I went to Germany to finish up my tour at PurCon, which was a supernatural specific convention. And let me just say, that was one of the loveliest little conventions I've been to. It was small. I think it was like 600 people, relatively to a big Comic-Con. It was small. I got to see people multiple times and like get to know them a little bit more. I hung out with the other cast members who I've never, Mark Shepard was there, Elena Huffman, whose daughters were there. So her daughter Charlie taught Calliope how to do a cartwheel, kind of. I mean, she would kind of like stand on her head, and it was just really, really fun. Everybody at PurCon always had a artistic concept for their photos. So they'd be like, they would bring a picture and be like, can we get on the ground, or I'm a clown and you're a murderer, or we're vampires and I'm your victim. They would have like scenarios out the wazoo. And I have to tell you, it was the funnest photo session because I'm like, what's next? What are we going to be now? Superheroes? What's next? So that was really funny. And the only problem is in Germany, again, I had a weird hotel. Germans, again, with the mattress was hard as a rock. They do not believe in down pillows in Germany. There was nobody to help with the luggage in this cute little, I picked the hotel because it was close to downtown and it had a great restaurant. But like, it was weird in that it didn't have like a valet person to help with the luggage. So I'm like lugging 7 suitcases upstairs. They had this motion detector in the bathroom that if you had to like go in the bathroom to turn on the light, which is a great idea until you have like a child sleeping in the bed. And then she just woke up every time I had to pee. They had a lot of fizzy water. So every single time I grabbed something from the mini bar in the middle of the night because I was thirsty, I would be, and why does anybody find mineral water refreshing? The bubbles do not quench your thirst, you know? It is the most unpleasant thing to like take a huge swig of mineral bottle in the middle of the night because you were really, really thirsty because you ate way too many olives. So that was it. And then wrapping up my trip, because God, I've been talking a long time. If we were over at lunch, you guys would be snoring your ass off. I'm really sorry, but I'm going to keep going. Then on the way home, finally, and by that time, you guys, I was burnt out. I needed to be home immediately, even before Germany. Thank God Germany was such a good experience with the fans and at the convention because, oh my gosh, I was so burnt out and tired of, and the poor baby, you know? I mean, she's like, Mom, I just want my tricycle. I just want my water table. I just want a bed I can sleep in, Mom. So she was really, really over it too, and I was over it, and thank goodness it was such a good time at the convention. But we finally leave on last Monday, and we get on the Lufthansa flight, which, by the way, the service is much to be desired. And I know everyone complains about airlines. They do their best, but woohoo. And we're leaving from Frankfurt. We're leaving from Dusseldorf to get to Frankfurt. It's a 40-minute flight, you guys. We get to the airport. It's delayed an hour. And we have an hour and 15-minute layover. So I'm like, are you kidding? I need to be home so bad. And you, what? Huh? And there were no options, you guys. There was nothing. I tried to change the flight a couple days earlier to go like earlier to leave maybe at 7 a.m. It was like a 3,000 difference. You know, like I was like, what? I could buy 2 other flights for that. So, and I don't understand how airlines work like that. So anyway, so we're there and I'm like almost crying. I'm not kidding. I was almost crying. Finally, the plane gets there and they're like, I keep asking them, are we going to make our connection? Because there's not another flight from Lufthansa to get to the US. So we would have had to have spent the night in Frankfurt, which I'm like, That's the last thing I want. I would rather like walk. I could have driven to Frankfurt faster on the Autobahn faster than we waited for the plane to actually arrive. So we get on, and of course we have to be bused to the, get on a bus, go to the plane, get on the plane, and the plane arrives, and then we get on a bus again, and then we go to the airport. So it's like 5 extra steps. It's like planes, trains, and automobiles, like times 50. So after an hour, the plane finally comes. Everybody's getting on the bus in a very leisurely fashion. And then everyone's like, is Mr. Vexel on the plane? Anybody Vexel? Vexel? And they hold the bus for 10 minutes. And everyone is just like, what is going on? Then we get to the airplane. We get on the plane. The captain basically throws the Dusseldorf air crew under the bus. He's like, we would be off the ground if it wasn't for ground crew. And I'm like, well, nice excuse, dude. And so we're on, everybody's ready to go. And then suddenly over the speaker, he's like, hello, I'm sorry, we cannot take off. There is a passenger, Mr. Vexel, who got his bags on and is not on the plane. And we have to get his bag off. So they had to go under the plane to get his guy's bag off because what was he doing? He got to the airport, he checked in, he gave us the luggage. He had an hour extra to get to the gate. What happened to this guy? Is he in a bathroom? Did he just get really drunk at 11 a.m. in one of the bars and just forgot? One time I actually did try to go to San Francisco, and the flight was delayed an hour and a half, and it was only an hour and a half flight, and I was so burnt out because it was when Geek and Sundry was launching that I just walked off the plane. But I didn't have any checked luggage. I just had one checked luggage. So like my disappearing hopefully didn't screw anybody over. I just had a nervous breakdown, but I talk about that in my book. Anyway, but this guy, Mr. Vexel, the whole time, all I'm thinking is, what happened to him? Where is he? Did he get another flight? Why would he get another flight and leave his bag on there? Why wouldn't he tell somebody? If he left, what's happening to him? Did somebody like shiv him in the bathroom? What's going on? So we get to Frankfurt and we get on the little bus and I'm like, I'm going to have to get on that plane. I will get on that plane. Oh, I will. And it's already 1:45 and the plane is supposed to take off at 2. So unless, and I asked the flight attendant, can they hold the plane? There's 10 people on my flight that need to get on that flight to LA. They were like, shrug, in a very German way. Like it was a shrug with a German accent. Very apathetic. And I was like, I have a baby. I'm a business class seat. And she was like, uh-huh. Okay. So that didn't work. So I hit the ground. The bus gets to the airport and I start running. And by the way, I have a baby strapped to my chest. I have a probably 20-pound backpack on my back with full of the baby stuff, her toys and everything. And the person traveling with me had a roller bag and another backpack. And we are running. And by the way, I haven't worked out in 16 months. No, more than that. I haven't worked out since my baby was conceived. So we're talking zero muscle tone. Even the London trip could not build any quads on this body, okay? It's gone. I am rubber. I'm a Haribo gummy Felicia now. So we're running. And we have to go through passport control. And we get to passport control, and there's only a small line. And we get up there, and the woman is eating potato salad so slowly and talking to her friend in German about a TV show she had been watching. And I am sweating, and I'm breathing already heavy. And this is only right inside the doorway. So we finally get through, and we are running. And I see the branch to the Z terminal, and it's like gates 11 through 25. And I'm like, oh my God, we're 25. No, we wouldn't be the last gate. Freight couldn't make that so. Oh, it made it so. We are running and we're running. And I'm not kidding. I was breathing like, people in like the perfume kiosks are like, what's wrong with that woman? And I'm grabbing Calliope's head because I don't want her to like get shaken baby syndrome because I'm running so hard. I'm like, and we get to the first like walkway that kind of helps you go faster and it's broken and I burst into tears. I'm like, and then so I'm running, going, and the baby's being jostled so hard. I'm like, I'm sorry. And finally, like at gate 14, I'm handing the passports over to my friend, and I'm like, go, leave us. And we get there, and I'm not kidding. It is like it's in a different airport. It's so far. And we get there. And there was about 200 people standing in front of the gate. And like, as we get there on the last one walkway that actually worked, it's like cresting the peak to like seeing like an oasis in the middle of the desert. Like, oh, did we make it? And we did. The flight was delayed a half hour and they hadn't even boarded yet, you guys. And then, of course, when I got there, what did I think? Oh, this flight's going to crash. So that was my trip. And to say that the 11 hours home was kind of torturous is probably just a given. Like, again, Calliope wouldn't sleep. She slept maybe 3 hours. I had to pile 5 blankets on there to make it soft for her. She took up the whole seat. I tried to sleep, but every time I would get my head in a position next to her body that would made me like almost doze off, she'd need to move. So no sleep, completely jet lagged for a week. I went straight to work the day after and worked all week. And so today is the first day I've actually gotten more than 5 hours sleep in probably a month and had a day off, which I'm not really, it's not even off. I still have to call about some insurance situation. So there you go. That was my trip. And let me just tell you, it was eventful and it really did show me that I just have to either leave the baby home or maybe I just get somebody to watch her during the daytime when I'm on vacation. I mean, that could be the simple solution, you guys. I don't know why I didn't think about that. I read several books. Oh boy, I'm not doing a question today. I need to compile, but please leave questions either on the SoundCloud account or at Reply Them Me to Twitter, because next week I hope to have an interview and I also hope to have a question from you guys. Because I'm getting back in the wagon. Weekly podcasts. Okay, so I did read several books. I didn't really consume any other media, but I did read several books. I read this book. It was a novella called The Twisted Path by Harry Connolly. And if you guys don't know, there is a series called The 1,000 Palaces or 10,000 Palaces. I don't know. It's a series that goes with this novella. And it's an amazing kind of Lovecraftian urban fantasy mystery series. Horror. I don't know why somebody hasn't made it into a TV series already. I don't know why. I guess it wasn't popular enough for it, but like it's so good. There's a role in it for me. So if anyone wants to adapt it, call me. But there was a novella associated with that world, and it's so good. It's a good taste of like the big. I would just start at the beginning if I were you. But it was a great novella that got me back into a world I love, and I really want him to make more books. I read that book that I talked to you about called The Dream Quest of Velvet Bow. And it's a novella as well. It won a Hugo, a Nebula. It won a lot. It was a finalist for a lot of awards. And it's really cool because it's a Lovecraftian novel about somebody who comes from a Lovecraft world but was on Earth. I don't want to give it away, but it's really, really great. And it has a protagonist and there's a cat in it. So it's a amazing book and a quick read. So I definitely recommend it. The Dream Quest of Velvet Bow. Those are 2 novellas that I read. I actually read, you guys. I read while I couldn't sleep. And then I read that Dangerous Women anthology that George R.R. Martin put together. And there were a couple great, great, great novellas in there. There's one that was like, I don't want to read it ever again. I think it was by John Connolly. I don't know. There was one that had violence and it was associated with a child. And I was like, I can't read this. But everything else was amazing. Also, it's worth getting just if you like Game of Thrones because there's a novella in there. And it really is not a short story. It's more of a novella that is the most violent book I have read in quite a while. If you think Game of Thrones is going to have a happy ending, read this Dance of Dragons sort of short story / novella of George R.R. Martin's, and you know everyone's going to have their heart broken at the end. This had so much violence and murder and death, and it was a real downer, and it's like a prequel. So if you are a Game of Thrones fan, definitely pick up the novella at the very least. But I would read all the other stories are really great. So that's what I would recommend. I did read Questlove's book finally, but I want to talk about it next week because they had a really, a little more in-depth, deep dive into that because there's stuff I want to talk about more deeply. And that's it. Well, you guys, I'm back, and I'm really excited to be back. A lot of you actually said, hey, I'm listening to the podcast, and I really enjoy it. So please make sure to subscribe on iTunes, follow on SoundCloud. I might be changing services if somebody comes in and wants to help me produce it, but the iTunes feed will remain the same, so that's probably the best way to keep up. And if you could throw me a review, I'd really appreciate it because I'd like people to find the podcast more. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.